I'm talking to Rob Snelson, IT Director of Travel Counsellors. We're at the 2016 South African Travel Counsellors Powwow in the Western Cape. Rob, technology obviously is central to the travel industry, and it's becoming more central daily. Let's just talk about generally the role of technology for an ITC company, obviously for travel counsellors, but in general the role of technology in an ITC company, or in fact any travel company, any retail travel operator. Just give us a little insight into the importance of technology.
So I think technology is really important in everything that we do. And that's not just important to the travel sector. My background isn't travel based. Before I worked at travel counsellors, I worked for a law firm. Before that, I worked for a retailer.
Always in the IT side?
Always in IT. My degree is marine biology, but my passion is technology.
Okay.
So I've always worked in technology. I used to be a developer a long time ago. So technology, whatever the sector, is critical to making efficiencies in people's time, giving them access to the right information that they need at that moment in time when it's timely and right for them. And so from a travel perspective, it's making sure that systems and the way that that information is presented informs the travel professional, the travel consultant, or the travel counsellor of everything they need to know at exactly the right time and when they need to know it for their clients. And that can be when people are inquiring about travel, so it's kind of when they're making inquiries as to destinations or particular flight times, etc. It can be actually during the booking process to confirm and make sure that all the information is correct, but also the security element of it as well. Making sure the security of not just the credit card information is secure and encrypted and safe, but also our personal details, so passport numbers, our addresses, even the fact that we're going to be away from our homes for a particular period of time.
Yes.
We as kind of technologists need to make sure that that information is secure and only visible to the people who need to see it.
That's quite important because we have a new Protection of Personal Information Act in South Africa, and those are the sort of requirements that I know it has. So it's interesting to hear that you're way up there in front of that whole movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's no different to any other country, whether that's the UK, Australia, South Africa. Governments are legislating to make sure that the information that is transmitted across the internet or across technology is secure and safe, and that only the people who need to have access to it can have access to it.
Yes.
So at travel counsellors and other travel companies and companies as a whole from a technology perspective, we're all very focused on making sure that that information, which is so sensitive and precious to us all, is kept secure. So that's another element of it.
Yes.
And I was talking about kind of going from the inquiry to the booking stage, but then beyond that, so when you're looking after a client or a customer after the booking, you want to make sure that when that customer phones up and has maybe got queries about what's going on, that you have access to that information immediately. So you're not going, I'll phone you back or I email you back. It's I can provide that information to you now, and in a way that's going to make sense to you. So some people like to speak on the telephone, which is fantastic. It's great, it's personal. Some people like to Skype, so it's face-to-face. And again, that's another technology that's been adopted widely. I think there are now 300 million active users of Skype across the globe, so that's just proliferating and growing bigger and bigger. But email is an important communication tool as well that people feel comfortable with. And there's also messaging, there's WhatsApp coming along that people are adopting far more.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that those technologies are available to the travel industry and to travel counsellors in particular, but making sure that they're in an easy-to-use way that's not going to alienate a customer, but it's going to make them actually think, wow, this is a personal communication with me and it's giving me the information that I need right now. And that's the importance of technology in travel.
With simplicity rather than complexity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just talking about IT in the South African environment, we're very early uptakers in many aspects of IT, but we've had a very difficult problem to deal with, which has been the constraint upon our bandwidth and the amount of data which can be transmitted. And I wondered, for such a technology-dependent company like Travel Counsellors, are you able to get around those sort of obstacles?
We are. We have a significant amount of individuals within our IT department back in Manchester who are focused on testing and quality control. And as part of that process, we have PCs, laptops that are very similar to the ones that travel counsellors will have in South Africa, and we restrict the bandwidth to those machines to connections that you maybe would experience in an area where it's more rural, where the bandwidth isn't so high, and we test all our systems and our software to make sure that they work as you would expect. So some people in the UK have a fibre optic connection to their house and they get great speeds to download, view videos, etc. Other people in the UK, if you live in the Lake District or maybe in Cornwall, you have a very slow internet connection with lower bandwidth. So it's not just particular to South Africa, but we kind of obviously build our software for the global travel counsellor family. So we test and make sure that all the software we build is tested on a machine that has a very kind of narrow bandwidth connection. So we can understand, if we're pushing content to a travel counsellor, that they're going to get a good experience, that their system's going to perform. And I've said this before to travel counsellors, I want a lot of the technology that we deploy, that we provide to travel counsellors, to be taken for granted. We want the information to be at their fingertips. We want the systems to work when they need them to work.
So it's like breathing air.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like I get to breathe. I get to use this system. I know it's going to be available. So that's really important to us. And if we built a system that was optimised for fibre optic connection, that would be unfair to all the travel counsellors who haven't got those types of connections because of the infrastructure in a particular country or just where they live. That's not fair. That's not a level playing field, and that's not who we are. We want to make sure that every travel counsellor has an exceptional experience of the technologies that we provide, because it's important that our travel counsellors are known for the care that they provide. We as technologists want travel counsellors to know that we care about them and their businesses. So we're very conscious of the technology we deploy, and we make sure that it works very, very well for everyone, not just the people who've got fibre optic connection.
Right. Rob, tell us, everywhere I go, because I'm sort of peripherally involved in the travel industry, everywhere I go, I hear people talking about big data. I've never seen anybody actually really in South Africa integrate that visibly into their business in the travel industry, but I just wondered if you have any comment on the presence of big data in a retail travel product.
Yeah, I think it's important that a customer or a client expects to talk to or have a conversation with another human being. That's where we get the most out of those transactions. I think that's what Travel Counsellors is famous for, that human connection between the customer and the client and their travel counsellor, and that relationship and that understanding of what a customer likes, what a customer doesn't like, the places that they visit, the trips that they need to take, their preferences in terms of hotel accommodation or even just accommodation in general. So at Travel Counsellors, we have a huge amount of data and information that can allow us to make more informed decisions and to present to travel counsellors when a customer contacts them as to what that customer likes, what that customer family has, what the age of that family is, what kind of trips they like, what destinations they like, what accommodation they like in particular destinations. So we're building a data platform in Manchester that will be available to everyone within the organisation, within the Travel Counsellors family, that will just complement that personal knowledge of the travel counsellor, so they will better be able to respond to a customer's requests and requirements for a booking or an inquiry.
And will that be a sort of it automatically pops up when you put somebody's name and ask for it, or is there a process, a complicated process you have to go to get to that big data?
No, there isn't a complicated process to entering that big data or that information. The systems that we're building, and some of the things I'm going to be talking about in my presentation tomorrow, we've rebuilt a brand new customer contact system called Contact Centre. So that records all the information about the customer, and we will immediately be able to present back to the travel counsellor more information about that customer that's been enriched from transactions and interactions with that customer historically, and be able to provide that to the travel counsellor, so they don't have to always remember or look at pieces of paper as to, oh, this is Mrs. Smith, this is what Mrs. Smith likes. The system will just be able to present that information to the travel counsellor. They can choose whether to use that, because obviously conversations can kind of take different routes and different flows, but we want to make sure that information is there in a simple format that's easy to understand in a very quick manner. We don't want to present lots of spreadsheets full of information. We want to just present visually rich content that's based on big data and served up through the algorithms of making sure that information is right for that customer and that travel counsellor. But it enhances that travel counsellor's relationship with that customer, that it complements it and keeps it personal and makes the customer still feel that they're talking to a human being and that they're not talking to a computer or a robot or an algorithm. Because I think that's
yeah.
really common with technology. Companies can use it too much, and you can feel like you're talking to a robot. And that's just so far removed from travel counsellors and what we offer.
Yes.
This is just so precious. And we just need to make sure that whatever we do technology-wise, we're always preserving and enhancing that personal relationship. Because that's what we're about.
Yeah. People want to talk to people, not machines. Yeah, absolutely. And Rob, just to really close off, what new developments do you see coming in the travel industry? Because I know that all developers and all IT people love the futuristic aspects of IT, and they see further into the future than people like me do. So what do you see in the future, either from a travel counsellor's perspective or both that and the bigger picture? What do you foresee in the future?
So I think we've already touched on it with the big data. So people are using big data to try and make more informed decisions. We're going to use big data and are starting to use our data and information that we've got over many years of kind of liaising and kind of working with our customers and our travel counsellors to just make it even more personalised, to make it more relevant, to make it more specific, and better tuned to a customer's needs and better tuned to a travel counsellor's needs. That's really important. So that's one area. Yeah. And also to make sure that we're presenting that in a way that's relevant to our current customers, so the customers that we've had for years, but also that we use that information and the ability to kind of tailor that information to attract new customers who are younger, who experience technology and want to communicate in different ways.
Yes.
So we've spoken before about communicating via email. A lot of the younger generation don't like to use email. They think it's old-fashioned. They think it's actually not appropriate or quick enough to deal with. They actually don't like speaking to people either. So I've got cousins, younger cousins, teenagers, and if I go to a family party, they're on their phones, and I kind of sit alongside them and say, "How's it going? What's going on? How's your year been?" And they go, "You can't come into this conversation." And then it's not a conversation, you're not talking to each other. No, we are on our phones. They're sat together in the same room, the same pub, with family members all around them. They're talking to each other, not looking at each other. So we need to make sure that we are providing technology that meets the needs of each of those different areas, so different age customers, existing customers, because we don't want to alienate people. We don't want to put people off by saying we're modernising or we're using these technologies. We will always offer the telephone as a great way of speaking to people. Skype, we've mentioned, a great way of visually communicating with people. We've got email, which we'll continue to use because a lot of people depend and use email very, very heavily. But we've also then, this is going to be announced at the conference later, we've also got a brand new app for our customers. That's going to be called the MyTC app. It's been in development for 6 months. And that is an itinerary and travel app which will provide all the relevant travel information to a customer for their travels. So their itinerary, where they need to be, where they need to go. All their travel documentation will be available there digitally in an app on their Android and their Apple devices. Fabulous. But what we're really conscious of is that isn't just, I feel like I've got an app and it's from travel counsellors and it's a bit robotic. The way that the app's being developed, and we're going to launch this, I'm going to demo it live on stage tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. A little bit nervous about, because it's a live demonstration, but it's also the first time that any travel counsellor will see the actual app. So the South African TCs are the first TCs globally who will see this mobile phone application, which we're so proud about. But the really important thing about the MyTC app is that it's got the travel counsellor embedded all the way through. So if you want to contact your travel counsellor, you can do it from the app. If you want to share your travel counsellor with another person you've met on your travels, you can share that dynamically through Facebook, through social media, through Twitter, through Instagram.
So it's almost like an app that sort of belongs to that particular travel counsellor that her clients have got.
It is their app, and that's why we call it MyTC. So when a customer gets their booking confirmation, they will have an invite to download it from the App Store, and it'll appear on their smartphone just as MyTC. So if you can imagine, you're about to kind of depart for travel, whether that's corporate travel or leisure travel, and you just want to know, you want to look at your flight ticket, you want to look at where you're heading, you just launch MyTC. Wherever that app is in the world, it basically gets hold of all that information. It's just pushed to the app automatically, and the customer will see in a very visually rich format where they're going, what flight details are, what their accommodation details are. When they get to a resort, the app remembers all that information. It doesn't need an internet connection to remember all that information. So if you imagine you get to your destination late at night, you want to check in. You don't have to go through your emails, you don't have to get an internet connection, you have to find some actual paper documentation. You just go to MyTC, show them the voucher, and you can just check in straight away. So it's a very personal application from the travel counsellor to their customer. And we're launching that in a couple of weeks' time. So literally it's almost ready to be launched, and it'll be launched globally middle of May.
Wow,
and we're very excited about that.
I'm sure that sounds like a very exciting development. Okay, so just one last question is, if you had to have a mantra or a motto or just one little sentence for 2016 for travel counsellors, what would it be? Put you on the spot.
No, it's on the spot. I think that's a really good question, and the reason I'm thinking about it is I want to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So our travel counsellors stand apart from the rest of the travel industry and any other industry really in the care and attention that they provide to their customers. So if you boil down and distill down everything that you see around us, all this camaraderie, the relationships that you kind of see around us, you kind of get to, we care.
Yes.
Everybody in travel counsellors cares about their customers, cares about their travel counsellors, their fellow travel counsellors. And for IT and the technology team, we are so passionate about building exceptional technology for our travel counsellors because we care. We care about the travel counsellors, we care about our customers. So I think to say what is so important for us for 2016, we care, and we care about everything that we're building for travel counsellors, for the whole group. And we're a passionate bunch of technologists in Manchester, and we are there to service the needs of all these incredible people around us because we care.
Well, if you say it, I believe it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Pleasure.
Rob.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.